25 years. That's how long Bishop Michael Mitchell has been pastor of New Life Tabernacle at Utica Avenue and Avenue D in Brooklyn. The measure of success is not measured by how long you've been at something, but rather what you have achieved in that space of time. Bishop Mitchell, welcome to Brooklyn45.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
What has this 45 years meant to you?
Wow. It's been quite a journey, if to say the least. Being pastor, being a minister of the gospel, a preacher of righteousness, it has really been a journey. And I have thoroughly enjoyed being used by God to spread His word and to offer assistance to people that ask for it.
We'll talk about that assistance later, but 25 years ago, take us back to that point. What were you? Where were you? I know you weren't at this magnificent edifice that you have now.
25 years ago, I was a music director for a church called New Life Apostolic in Ozone Park, Queens. Myself and Sister Mitchell were assisting there, Pastor Scotty Teets, when this small assembly, group of people, New Life Tabernacle, was without a pastor for 2 years. My pastor asked me if I'd go over and preach that Sunday for them. And we went and preached Sunday morning, went back and preached Sunday night, and then our lives changed. My pastor called me Monday morning and said, "Mike, they like you." And my response was, "I like them too." He said, "They would like for you to become their pastor."
Wow.
I said, "Of what?" He said,
How many people were there?
25 persons.
Wow.
And 12 of those were children. So I didn't have much to work with, but I now realize that the scripture is true. Little is much if God is in it. And I can say that God was in that decision.
Did you have any idea that 25 years later you would have been pastoring a church of, 1,500, 2,000 people?
Had not a clue. I knew that God wanted to use us. I knew that God was bigger than any circumstances or challenges that would come to us in building a church. I didn't know the magnitude of the blessing, but I knew that if I started the journey, that it would take me somewhere.
You said magnitude. Let's talk a little bit about this is business now. Let's talk about the magnitude of the building that you were able to construct. I mean, that must have been a challenge.
That was a challenge. When you look at it now, what you see today is not what we had envisioned to build at the beginning. On the onset of this project, we were only challenging ourselves to build a building to seat 500 people, and it would have cost us no more than around $1.2 million. It wouldn't have occupied all the space that it was occupying now. But as the journey progressed, then the vision became clearer, and then the provision fell in place.
I like that. Vision and the provision for the vision.
Well, it's the absolute truth.
Yes.
We started this project with no money. The only reason why we were able to build this building, it's because we found favor with a banker. And she happened to be the branch manager of what was called NatWest. And one day I walked into that branch and said, I've been doing business here, and I would like to see how we can establish some line of credit with you. She said, "Where is your account?" I said, "Well, it's in Long Island. That's where I live." She said, "Why don't you move your account to Brooklyn, and I'll see what I can do to you." So we moved our account to Brooklyn, and thus the journey began.
Your angel was with you.
And my angel was with me all the way through the process.
You haven't forgotten your roots. If you visit your church, you're not only the preacher, you not only deliver the word, but you also deliver, I should say, you not only deliver the spoken word, you also deliver the word in song. And it's amazing. Tell us a little about your work and experience as music director and why you continue to burst out in song as often as you do?
Well, long before I was a preacher, I was a singer, songwriter. I started this journey when I was 13 years old in the only United Pentecostal church in New York City, and that was in Manhattan, 296 West 92nd Street. And from that church, I had several instructors, mainly my Sunday school teachers. One bought me a bass guitar, the other one bought me a drum set, and from there, God just did the rest. And I kept playing instruments and playing instruments. Then I became the music director for the church. Then I became the youth president for the church. Then I formed my own singing group. And so from there, I became the choir director, and so I became the songwriter. And so I am pleased that my journey from music has transitioned me into being pastor. So as pastor, I have not forgotten that I was first a singer.
Yes.
And I will always keep singing.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
You don't look that old yourself. I mean, you still look youthful. You still look like the youth that the young people look up to you, I'm sure. And they ask you very often, how old are you?
Yeah. I am getting to the place now where I am shying away from telling the number.
Okay.
But we were playing a tape in church. I think you were there because we're getting ready to celebrate our 25 years of pastoral ministry. And so they were interviewing individuals that were there with us and those that are there with us now as to Pastor Mitchell and his journey. And so one sister who was there with me for 25 years, Sister Piquant by name, she said, when we got our pastor, God sent us a young bishop and a good-looking
Who could
bishop.
last a long time.
I guess she knew if I was young, I would last long.
Sure, yes.
So God, in his own wisdom, kept me youthful. But he also gave me wisdom to manage the crisis, the problems, the issues, without them becoming a part of my DNA. And I think that's the secret to pastoring, is asking for God's wisdom. That's the one thing that Solomon sought after, not riches. He said, Lord, just give me wisdom, knowledge, and understanding as to how to lead these people. And every man and woman of God that feels the call of God and will pursue it must ask God at the beginning of the journey, please give me wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Not wealth, not prestige, not an image, but just his mind as to how to handle the people that he has lent you to serve.
And you feed these people.
And we try to feed them.
In fact, you not only feed them with the word, you feed them, if you look across from where your church is, there's this ice cream parlor where when I was allowed to eat ice cream, I would go and have my rum and raisin, and I'd have my strawberry ice cream. I can no longer do that. But you're now feeding people with food and ice cream.
Well,
How do you do that? There are several churches who have their businesses alongside the business of the church. Tell us a little about that.
Well, the journey of building a church introduced me to my roots as far as in entrepreneurship. I started this journey when I was 19, working for E.F. Hutton on Wall Street. And that introduced me as to how to manage money and how to use other people's money to build an empire. So when the opportunity to purchase the only Caribbean-based company that made Caribbean ice cream called Taste the Tropics was presented to us, we looked at it as an opportunity not only for entrepreneurship, but also as an opportunity to further take root in the community, because that business gave us insight into the mindset of East Flatbush and the West Indian community that lived there, and what flavors of interest, what interests them. So we were able to tap into another group of people that wouldn't have been turned on to the church, but were turned on to the flavor of ice cream.
Yes.
And the flavor of ice cream gave me the opportunity to present them to the taste of God.
Okay.
And like the Bible said, oh, taste and see.
Yes.
So once they taste grape nut and then they tasted Jesus, they decided I'll keep grape nut, but I'll also
I'll
keep
also
Jesus.
keep Jesus.
Yes. And that's a beautiful decision.
Oh, okay. I want to talk about young people, but before we do that, what's happening for this 25th year?
Well, there's a group of people that's been chosen or selected to chair this committee that would put together a fit-in celebration as to our 25 years of pastoring. And so they are going to be putting together a service on Thursday night, April 24th, 25th, and then a banquet on the 26th at Grand Prospect Hall, which we are anticipating, or they're anticipating, over 350 persons to be there, along with several elected officials that will do citations and proclamations, and then a wonderful service on Sunday morning that we're anticipating a wonderful gathering of people.
Well, I wish you success in your 25 years. What's going to happen the next 25? Because I know you're thinking about that already.
You know, I have mixed emotions for the next 25. There are days I'd like to pass the baton to someone else.
You're young.
I know, and I'd like to stay that way.
Okay.
You know, the greatest challenge for a pastor is knowing when it's time to
Yes.
pass. Most ministers tend to want to die in this position. God never elected his servants to allow the work to become a burden. And a man of God has to know when it's the will of God to come and when it's the will of God to leave. So the challenge of the next 25 years is not what will I do? It's how will I do it, and how much time will God allow me to do it? Because I do know that within the next 25 years, a young man is going to come after me. Mm-hmm. And hopefully it's one that I've groomed. And he will take the baton and take this church to heights that I only imagine it could reach.
Young Bishop Michael Mitchell, who is the pastor at New Life Tabernacle on the corner of Avenue D and Utica Avenue. Thank you for being on Brooklyn45. And I know you're looking forward to 25 is young, so 50 will still be young. But as you think youth and so on, I'm sure that the young people will continue to look up to you, and you'll continue to guide them with wisdom.
Yes.
And help them to achieve their vision.
Well, I hope to do that with much ease in the next 25.